Namato Ratanatayasa. May I pay homage to Triple Gem, the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha. My respect goes to my parents and my teachers. Hello. So today is Tuesday, the 2nd of May 2020, and this is Ajahn Sujan from Varapunya Meditation Center, Aberdeen, Scotland. Good evening, everyone. Hi, Margaret. Hi, Manish. Hi, Linda. And hi, everyone. So, as usual, I'm here with you on this evening, UK time. I hope that you're all having a wonderful time, although this weather has changed and the weather is not that great as compared to a couple of days ago. So this weather is going to last about a week, windy, cold and rain. In a way, this is needed for our plants and our potatoes, our all other plants that even today David has planted about 40 trees in our woodlands, and tomorrow also will be another few trees will be planted. So that's why the weather is changing towards the colder and the rainy, but yet we had a lovely time for a week. And then this 1 week, we do not know what's going to happen. Hello, Karina. Hello, Bante Tapasi. So, like that. I have been reading one of the scriptures. So that is called the Samyutta Nikaya. One of the Nikayas in the 5 Nikayas in the Tipitaka, and generously a few weeks ago I announced to buy those books, and some of you generously donated those books, and I happened to have it and going through the books and one particular book called the Samyutta Nikaya. In that Samyutta Nikaya, and I was going through the gathas or stanzas. And when I went through the gathas and stanzas, and gradually, it refines and also make me remember those my previous readings and talks. So it also helped me to understand more and more, and meanwhile there are also some other thoughts arises as well. As many of you know that I wasn't born Buddhist, and presumably those who are listening, a majority of you also not born Buddhists. And somehow I came to contact to Buddhism and study Buddhism, and ever since try to read and try to understand and try to apply in day-to-day life, so I can understand more and make sense of it. So with that, when I was doing my studies in Thailand, I went through the scriptures, some of the scripture, not all of them, and interested discourses. And in those days, it was like a memorization rather than application or applying in our day-to-day life. And later on, as I went to the meditation, and gradually those teachings become more sensible, and that works. And I still remember very first time when I came to contact with the Buddhism, it felt like I have found an ocean-like wisdom in Buddhism that I was some sort of a hunger of it, and immediately after I got hand over it, I tried to read and practice meditation to make sense of it. And the more I study and the more I practice, I realize that what the Buddha was teaching are so relevant and so beautiful, and the more you investigate, the more it becomes so relevant, and it's so beautiful. And that's again what I found. But however, despite of understanding the teachings in some level, and also from the experiential level of my own experiences about the teachings and about the practice, sometimes I do question myself that do I really have a firm belief or the faith in the Buddha, you know? And occasionally I check myself that whether do I have that faith. And even when I pay respect to the Buddha during the lunchtime, or sorry, not nowadays lunchtime, but in the past, but now we normally pay respect or chant during the morning and evening chantings. And that time, whenever I'm paying respect, then again I'm checking myself that am I paying respect with full confidence and full faith or not. Like that, and which again confirms that I still have that genuine faith, but it's not full yet. I do not classify myself as like I have a full confidence on it, but constantly the more I study, I found that it's so relevant, and faith become more stronger and stronger, and teachings become so relevant and more. And so like that. And when I was reading this Samyutta Nikaya in particular, I found one very interesting conversation between one celestial being and the Buddha. The celestial being, he or she doesn't say Devata, so that means he come down to the from the heavens and talk to the Buddha. Spoke with the Buddha, saying about there are saying those who have not penetrated things, who may be led into others' doctrine. And this is again also I can see so many examples as well, that there are so many new, fresh, interested in Buddhism come to study Buddhism, or particularly because of the meditation or mindfulness meditation, they come to study Buddhism, and because of their faith is not that become a confident faith, or the faith is just like on a surface level, or just like a test, as the Buddha said, come and see. It just come and experience it for a while, and didn't continue the pursuing of understanding it, the continue practice. As a result, their faith is not that strong, and within a few weeks or a month later, they simply give up studying. Their faith is not strong enough. And with that, their penetration is not completed. So basically, they will turn to other techniques or other methods or other teachings. And here we can see a lot as well. Sometimes people want to learn meditation, and they will just come and practice for some times, even just one technique, and they cannot comprehend. And they even do not want to continue, or do not want to practice as were taught, but they want to know more and more. So even a one technique hasn't accomplished in certain levels, but wanting to have more knowledge and understand, kind of acquiring more knowledge. But if one hasn't got more knowledge, or hasn't feel the confidence, and they will just move on to someone else like that. And again, it's like a pick and mix begins. So it's very easy to move on to something when you haven't got the faith and you haven't developed the faith. And with that, again, what happens is laziness also develops, lethargy also develops, and make different excuses not to practice. So we do have examples that people come to meditate and make so many excuses of not practicing. And one of the famous examples is I don't have a time. So this I don't have a time being one of the famous excuses not to practice. And this is what we need to know properly. And in that Devata, the celestial being, when he said so, the Buddha said that those who have penetrated things well, who cannot be led into others' doctrine. So that's here basically the penetration on the doctrines of the Buddha. If one has penetrated properly or well, then their faith and confidence will not change, and that is what needed. There is a story during the time of the Buddha that the Venerable Sariputta and Moggallana, those were one of the top level Buddha's disciples. Sariputta had a knowledge equal to the Buddha and able to comprehend and elaborate on any teachings like similar to the Buddha. And he was known as the second hand of the Buddha in terms of the teachings. And whereas the Moggallana was also second to the Buddha, that in terms of exhibition of the psychic powers or magical powers like that, and magics or supernatural powers. And those Sariputta being knowledgeable and intellectually very wise, took him quite some time to be liberated, because he had the analytical mind, whereas the Moggallana, he had a strong faith on the Buddha's teachings. And as soon as he heard the teachings from the Buddha, he immediately became the Arhat, the Noble One. And sometimes again, because of the conceit and because of the pride, people also, despite of knowing they will not continue practicing. It's like a Sanjaya, one of the previous teachers of the Sariputta and Moggallana. He was very wise, and he had students of himself, and he was well respected in the community. But once the Sariputta, he found that there is the Buddha who is more knowledgeable, and we should go and learn from him. And when he approached to the Sanjaya, Velataputta, he was the teacher, he said that in the world, between wise people and foolish one, there are more foolish. So I will rather stay with the foolish people. You all go to the Buddha. So that's again because of this pride of a being, and despite of knowing that the Buddha is wiser and greater than anyone else at that time, he refused to go to see the Buddha. And that's also hasn't developed the faith in it. Similar story I can recall is there was two businessmen, two brothers. One was Mahakala and another one was the Chulakala. So those two brothers were merchant businessmen and traveling to different cities for their business. And one day they were traveling to the Savatthi where the Buddha was residing, and after hearing the Buddha's teachings, Mahakala, the elder brother, decided to become a monk. And his brother Chulakala also decided to become a monk. Mahakala, he became a monk out of faith on Buddha Dhamma Sangha and dedicated himself, fully committed, and practiced meditation and vipassana meditation in particular, become the Arahat, the noble one. Whereas the Chulakala, he was the younger brother. He also became a monk. But his intention was not to become a monk for the liberation, but his intention was that he will convince his brother to leave his monkhood and go back to the family affairs. And it happened that later year, Chulakala's family members invited along with the Buddha to visit his house for a meal, and Chulakala went one day before for the preparation, and it happened that his ex-wife and family members convinced him to give up monkhood and stayed as a layperson at home. And then the very next day, when Buddha along with the monks arrived at home, he was already being a householder. And then later on, having seen that Chulakala has transformed himself as a householder, because in a request or somehow a manipulation from the family members, Mahakala's family and his ex-wife also decided to invite Mahakala along with the Buddha, and hoping that they will reverse the Mahakala. And after the meal, the family members requested the Buddha to leave Mahakala at home for the teachings, and the Buddha left him alone at the house. And this time again, the family members of the Mahakala tried to manipulate or try different ways to take the robe out of Mahakala. Having seen that, their attitude, he ran away from that house and paid respect to the Buddha. In here, when the other monks saw this incident, Buddha, before the Mahakala ran away from his house to see the Buddha, at that time monks weren't happy that the Mahakala left alone at home, hoping that he also will be manipulated and disrobe. But the Buddha told the monks that it won't happen, because Mahakala had a great faith in the teachings, and he had practiced properly, he had penetrated properly, so no one can revoke or no one can convert him into any other doctrines or any other livelihood. It wasn't complete yet at that time, and the Mahakala came to pay respect to the Buddha. So that's sort of a thing that once, if we do not have a faith, normally what happens is even a small bit of things can change our mind. It is not just about the teachings. It is not about the practice of meditation. Even in our day-to-day life, if we look at it, if we do not have a faith that we can do it, then normally what happens is it won't. We will not get, or we will not be succeeded. So we have to have develop this faith. And the second conversation went on, saying, the Devata, the celestial being, said, "Fast asleep, they have not yet awakened. It is time for them to awaken." And the Buddha replied, "Those awakened ones, having rightly known, fare evenly amidst the uneven." So that's basically those who have understood properly, they are fully awakened. Once they are fully awakened, then there is no way that will go back to the worldly matters. And that's sort of the faith that we are talking here. And that faith again is not because the Buddha had said, or not because the scripture had said, but we have experimented by ourselves and generated this confidence and a faith. And that's become a belief, and this belief becomes the attitude. And having a right attitude defines all. But if we do not develop this, then what normally happens is we develop conceit, and we grasp on this wrong attitude, and developing this jealousy, hatred, and comparing nature, and sort of that thing. And this again, if we look at in our day-to-day life, any family or any relationship, you have to develop the faith one another. If we do not develop faith within one another, then always there will be a quarrel. There always will be a conflict. So everything on the base of the faith and confidence that we have to develop, and otherwise we will not be able to maintain our practice, and we will be changing this and changing that, and will not be able to succeed in our life. There are people touch one thing for some times, and after they found that they cannot continue, they will just drop it and do something else. And that we can reflect that it happened simply because they haven't got the faith. The faith is not fully developed, or they haven't penetrated it properly. And with that non-penetration or incomplete penetration, they will not be able to complete any tasks, whether it is a small or a bigger. Even if they cannot complete even a small task, then how could they will be able to complete the bigger task or higher tasks? And in terms of the Buddhist practice, if we even can't fulfill developing this faith into the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, and we cannot develop the faith in the teacher and the methods, how could we develop the confidence, and how could we develop the faith, and it's become a belief that paves or that leads us for the success. And furthermore, the success is not just a simple for this life, but again, this is for the spiritual growth that leads to the attainment of a nibbana, the supreme happiness or the liberation. So that we should be aiming for, and this is what Buddha also said, that after we have fully penetrated, the person becomes one of these four noble beings. One is the Buddha, the awakened one, and the second is the self-awakening one, or the Pacceka Buddhas, and the third is one who has practiced in accordance with the Buddha's teachings. It's called a Savaka Sanghas. And then the last is one who has developed significantly by just listening the teachings. And with that penetration of completion, one of these we will be achieving. And that's how our faith becomes stronger in the teachings. And with this, what happens is we will be able to understand things as they truly are, and able to establish properly in whatever we do. Even small things at our house, we have to have a faith that I can do. Particularly here, I can give you an example. At the center, Ajahn Pira, he never done any carpentry or any building job, but he had a faith in him that he can do that. So as a result, He started from making a small stools and gradually develop his confidence that he can renovate the entire barn, insulation and all other things. Although it takes time, but he had a great faith that he can do that. And with that, he spent a lot of time studying on YouTube and how to use the tools and how to use what should be used during this work time. Like that sort of the faith. Because he had this faith that he can do that, he spent a lot of time studying and investigating. And now, since we started the job, his mind is fully occupied with only one thing, is the barn repairment or the renovation. So that sort of a confidence we have to develop, that sort of a faith we have to develop, and we investigate fully without any unturn, failing to concentrate. But there are many who again just touch one job for some times and lost their faith or confidence, and then the job is just deserted like that. And with that, it's very difficult to have a success in our life. So it doesn't matter what we do, it's a matter of having a full confidence and able to penetrate those things well. With that, what happens is we will not be going to change from one to another. And here Buddha was simply saying that a penetration well here simply means able to comprehend the Four Noble Truths. And once we have fully understood the Four Noble Truths, then we will not be converting or changing to any other different views. And here different views, Buddha was talking at that time of the Buddha, which that time where there were about 62 types of the view against the Buddha's Four Noble Truths. And Buddha simply was saying that they will not change to any other views, but remain with the Four Noble Truths. And that's in our life as well. Okay, if we have developed that fully penetrated faith in any jobs or any aims, then we will be able to succeed without a failure. So I offer this as a tonight's reflection, and few minutes time we will have evening chanting and guided meditation. I would like to invite you to join with us in both chanting and meditation. Until then, may you be happy, peaceful, and may the Buddha bless you, and see you shortly. If you are not continuing, then see you tomorrow at 6:30 for the talk, and followed by the chanting and meditation. So good night.